Good morning, everyone. Please be seated. I appreciate everyone wearing masks in the courtroom this morning. We're going to do that in an effort to keep everyone safe. I did just take mine off so that I can be heard, and so that and whenever counsel is speaking, you may remove your mask, and the same for any statements that we received from crime victims this morning. But the record should show that parties are present in open court at the Jones County Courthouse for purposes of sentencing in the state of Iowa versus Thomas Allen Woodard Jr., cause number FECR 008351. The record should show that the state appears by Jones County Attorney Christopher Lyons and Assistant Attorney General Scott Brown. Mr. Woodard appears personally with his attorneys Brian Sissel, Todd Weimer, and Adrian Houghton. The law and the rules of criminal procedure prescribe the order and to a certain extent the content of this morning's hearing. The court will hear recommendations from the state and from counsel for Mr. Woodard. The rules of procedure then provide that Mr. Woodard has an opportunity to address the court should he wish to do so, and the court will hear statements from or on behalf of any of the crime victims who are present this morning. And finally, the court will pronounce judgment and sentence with regard to each of the counts this morning. Mr. Lyons or Mr. Brown, is the state aware of any legal cause we cannot proceed with sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
Counsel, on behalf of Mr. Woodard, Mr. Sissel, Mr. Weimer, or Mr. Houghton, are there any motions that are contemplated that have not been filed?
No, Your Honor.
I did review the file, and it appears that there are no motions that we need to take up prior to sentencing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Judge.
And do you know of any legal cause we cannot proceed with sentencing, Mr. Sissel?
I know of none.
Mr. Woodard, do you stand by the guilty pleas that you made on August 6th in this courtroom with regard to each count in this case?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons or Mr. Brown, does the state have a recommendation regarding sentencing?
Your Honor, we do. A little later on this morning, you're going to hear from the families of the victims in this case and hear from the victims, some of the victims themselves. The events that Mr. Woodard put into action at the Anamosa State Penitentiary had a profound impact on their lives, and the state is going to ask that your sentence also have a profound impact. In regards to the murder of Robert McFarland, the state will ask that you sentence Mr. Woodard to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and also that you institute $150,000 in victim restitution as contemplated by Iowa Code Section 910.3b, along with any other restitution the court deems appropriate. We also ask that any restitution order be ordered, leave open the possibility that it be joint and severally liable with the co-defendant in this case once his case is resolved. For the murder of Lorena Schultz, the state will also ask that you institute life in prison without the possibility of parole with the same restitution that we previously asked for, and we ask those sentences be run consecutive to each other. For the attempted murder of McKinley Roby, the state will ask that you sentence the defendant to an indeterminate term not to exceed 25 years in prison, and that indeterminate term also be run consecutive to the previous 2 terms. We would ask for 30 days to submit restitution in that case, because there are some medical bills that we still don't have the full amount of related to Mr. Roby's medical care that he received after he was attacked. And finally, Your Honor, for the kidnapping of Lori Mathis, we also ask for another indeterminate term not to exceed 25 years in prison. We would ask that that term be run consecutive to the previous terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Mr. Sissel, Mr. Weimer, or Mr. Houghton, on behalf of Mr. Woodard, your recommendation with regard to sentencing.
Thank you, Judge. Regardless of whether this court runs these sentences concurrent or consecutive, Mr. Woodard realizes he's not getting out of prison ever again. It's been clear since the beginning of this case, Judge, that this was never the plan. This was never his intention. It was a plan that was to escape from the penitentiary. Both Mr. Woodard and his co-defendant, when talking to law enforcement, indicated that it was never their intention to harm anyone. And he put himself in a very bad position, and obviously tragic results happened. So that's all. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Sissel. Mr. Woodard, at this stage in the proceedings, you have the right to address the court face-to-face about any facts or circumstances you think I should consider. If you wish to speak, this is your opportunity to do so. At this time, the state it's my understanding that the state has put together a list of the individuals who wish to address in terms of a victim impact statement, and you may summon the first individual.
We do, Judge, and just to make sure, I know I mentioned this to you before we started this morning, there are 11 oral impact statements that we intend to offer. We're going to have them come to the witness chair, if that's okay with the court.
That's fine. And I will address the group, including the 11 who wish to speak this morning. I appreciate that emotions are really high this morning, and I would ask that you concentrate. If you are reading from a document, we all tend to speak very quickly, and that can be accelerated with heightened emotion. So when you come up, I would ask you to the best of your ability to please concentrate on speaking slowly and distinctly so I can understand what you want to hear today.
The first of those is Sarah McFarland. I'll spell her name for you, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Sarah is S-A-R-A, McFarland, M-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-D. She's the wife of Robert McFarland.
We should have had forever. That's what frequently runs through my mind when I think about how much I miss Robert, Bobby Mack. Instead, I only got to have the love of my life for a little over 13 years. You didn't just kill a correction officer. You killed an amazing father, uncle, firefighter, and husband. There was never a time that I couldn't count on Robert. He took care of me after multiple surgeries, and when I was sick, And he didn't just take care of me. He would take care of the boys. There was nothing he wouldn't do for us. It wasn't just his family that he would take care of. He would do anything to help anyone. I always told Robert he was my hero. I was and am so proud to be his wife. On March 23rd, you took my world, my heart from me. He won't be sitting next to me at our boy's wedding, holding my hand. I miss him holding my hand so much. He always knew how to make me feel so incredibly safe. Do you know what a nightmare it is to hear someone tell you that the person that you love so much was murdered? Thanks to you, I do. It's a horrible nightmare I never ever wake up from, no matter how hard I try. Thanks to you, Robert will get to meet our first grandson. He will never get to hold him. I no longer have him to talk about medical decisions for our youngest son. I just had to drive almost 6 hours to take our son to his doctor. Usually Robert would drive us. He would be there with me to help me remember all the medical information the doctor would tell us. I've had to make the decisions alone. Our youngest will have to have other surgeries in the future. He won't have his daddy there to comfort him, to help him feel better. I had to tell our sons that their dad was gone, that he was never coming home. I hear their cries at night. You didn't murder an officer who didn't care. Robert wanted to be a correctional officer to help the inmates. He wanted to help you guys make good decisions so you don't go back to prison. He treated you guys with respect. The fact that you hit him with a hammer like you could have cared less about him makes me more angry than I have ever been in my life. I have never hated anyone like I hate you. And to be quite honest, I hope you rot in hell for what you took from us all. For what you did to Robert, I will spend each and every day striving to make my hubby proud of me. I will help our boys remember what an amazing dad they had. I will tell our grandchildren what an amazing grandpa they had, how much they would have loved him. I will also tell them what a hero he was. He knew something wasn't right and stopped you from being able to break out of prison. How even while he was hurting and dying, he got the alert out to get help. That's something that you will never be able to take away from our family. The knowledge that Robert was not only a hero in life, and he died a hero.
Judge, the next statement is from Colton Appleback. As he comes forward, his name is spelled C-O-L-T-E-N. Last name is A-P-F-E-L-D-E-C-K. I didn't mention he's the son of
Robert's been in my life since I was very little. He was a dad when we were having trouble with mine. Then March 23rd, I had to be in my car and hear the words that he has been taken because he wanted to get out of prison. Those aren't ever the words that any son wants to hear. He went to work that day, wanting to help you guys. He didn't go to work for the money. He wanted to go to work to help you guys. He was always there, helping you, helping all his COs, helping everybody that needed help. He was a great father. I always had him there to cry on, to talk about anything I
The next victim impact statement is Cason McFarland. First name is Casen. It will be read by Janita Scarlett. Her name is spelled Yanira. Last name is Carlet. Are there two T's?
I'm sorry, C-A-R?
How do you spell it?
Scarlett.
She's reading the statement on behalf of Cason.
Ever since I was young, my dad was always there for me. When I needed help on homework, he would get it. He would help me get it done. He was always by my side after every surgery I've had and would help me to heal and feel better quicker. He would play on the Xbox with me when he had time. He would take me to doctor appointments if Mom couldn't. He helped as a volunteer. To sum it up, he did a lot of things for all my family. He also did a lot for the community. He helped as a volunteer firefighter. Now, that is all taken from us. He helped so many people. He would go out on any call if he wasn't at work. He would go to the fire station almost every Sunday to help with any call. And with duty day, and make sure to get everything done so the field would not be broke, or something be wrong with any of the fire trucks. If there was anything wrong with the truck, he would be the first volunteer to get them to police to get it fixed. My dad was an awesome firefighter and correctional officer. It's always been my dream to graduate and have my dad there, so he could be super proud of me because I had made it. He would also get me up for school and make sure I wasn't late for school. Dad would take me to physical therapy and would motivate me to do better things and would help me to practice my therapy exercises so I could get stronger and get better. He always motivated me to be better at everything I do, to try my best no matter what. My dad, Robert Bobby McFarland, is the best dad ever. And my hero. I hope to make him proud every day for the rest of my life.
Next is Kathy McFarland, who's the mother of Robert. Her first name is Cathie.
I sit before you. As a broken mom, I feel like my mind, body, and soul are in a million pieces. I remember the morning I got the call about my son. All I could do is scream and cry. Then I had to call my two daughters and my other son. And all I could say to them is, Bobby's gone. Nothing else as far as I can remember. My mind wouldn't allow me to say the words. Your brother has been killed. It is the worst nightmare that a parent can go through. My heart has been ripped from my body. Again, I could not process the reality of it. I wanted to die and ask God to take me instead of my son. I was in a deep, dark hole that nothing could penetrate. There was no goodness, no caring, no light, nothing but blackness. I had to claw my way out of that hole and deal with the pain of losing my son. I was brokenhearted and destroyed and no longer wanted to go on. My grief never leaves. It will quiet down for a while, and then it will rear its ugly head and destroy me all over again. I no longer find pleasure in the things I used to love to do. Some days it takes everything I have just to get dressed. And the normal everyday task of running a house sometimes are more than I can handle. How am I to have a normal life? Because when I wake up, the reality hits me. My son is no longer with me. My baby boy is gone forever because you chose to take his life.
The next victim impact statement is Kay K-A-Y, first name L-A, capital P-O-I-N-T-E, Kay Point. She is the sister of Robert.
Robert, Bobby, as some of us call him, McFarland was far more than a correctional officer at Anamosa Prison the day he was killed. He was a husband, a father, a son, a cousin, a respected firefighter. He was my brother, my daughter's uncle and godfather. Bobby put everybody before himself and even his family. I will never get another phone call with my brother Bobby, another hug, another anything, and this hurts. No, this makes me angry. But I know my brother would not want me angry because he would want me to continue on with my life. Thomas Woodard, you never once considered Bobby's family the day you killed him. You never considered how it would impact any of us as his family, or how it would impact the rest of our lives. For me, I worry about my daughter and how she is handling things the rest of her life. I've had to go on meds. I've lost a job that I've held for a long time. I don't sleep. I've had fights with my family over this. Nothing in our lives will ever be close to being the same ever again. There is too much hurt to even be close to being the same. My only wish for you, Thomas Woodard, is that you remember the hurt that you have caused so many people the day you killed my brother. I am thankful, though, that my brother, Bobby, and Lorena's pain and suffering didn't have to last nearly as long as the pain and suffering that our families will have to go through the rest of our lives. Now, my prayer for you, Thomas Woodard, will be that you will be lucky enough to be blessed that the future correctional officers that you might have to meet in the future will be half as nice and half as respectful as the correctional officer that my brother Bobby was to all the inmates that he was to at the inmates at Anamosa Prison. Because I know for a fact not all correctional officers treat all inmates with respect. No family should ever have to go through what our families are having to go through and try to stay positive. But I know that my brother would want us to stick together and try to make the most of what we have left. So, I am going to try and not stay angry and hurt and bitter with you. I'm hoping no future pain is caused by you to any future correctional officer or future inmates that you ever come in contact with.
The next statement, David McFarland, DABID. He is the brother of Robert.
Let me start off by saying, Robert McFarland, Lorraine Schulte, These are the names we should remember. I challenge everyone in the room when we think of the day it happened to remember those names. No other name, the names of the people that did this do not matter. We should only say their names and show their pictures. That's my challenge to the media. Don't mention their names. Robert and Lorena, that still matter. I struggle with what to say today. You've already heard the pain and suffering that you caused on that day. So I sought answers and I turned to God. I want you to know all the good that your evil caused. For better or worse, God has given us free will and the ability to choose between good and evil. On that day, you chose evil. My brother chose good. He helped stop you and was able to help save others from harm. Your plan to escape failed long before it even got started. My brother and his co-workers were never going to allow that to happen. You never had a chance. As hard as this tragedy has been, I still believe God and good will always triumph over evil. The amount of love and support shown in this room is just a small portion of it. We could have packed this room with a loud. There are so many people that supported us and have showed us that there is good, whether that be the family, friends, Robert Lorena's co-workers, my co-workers, the entire law enforcement community, the state of Iowa and beyond. So many people have been there for us, and that has reaffirmed to me that good will always triumph over evil. He was a good son, good brother, good husband, great father, and also a human being, loved by many, liked anyone that got to know him. They didn't do it for the recognition, the money, or to be a hero. If he was here now, he would say, I'm not a hero. They just loved their jobs. They loved doing what they did. The evil choice you made on March 23rd may have taken him from us, but you will never be able to erase all the good things he did and our memories. You're never going to be able to stop the people that continue to honor Robert and Lorena are the good things they do in his name and her name. The one thing you did do, though, is you sealed your fate of ever having a chance to be free on your time on earth. As for your time after death, I will leave that decision to God. But according to the Bible, John 14:23 says, Jesus said, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. You see, the love of God is not unconditional, but profoundly conditional. Your whole life you have failed to believe and follow God, to keep his word. All your evil acts and plans that got you into prison to begin with and continued once you were in prison show that. You have failed time after time, time after time. Judgment Day. Today is not the judgment day you should be worried about. But Matthew 5:21 says, you shall not murder. Whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But today is not your judgment day you should be worried about. For this judge can only sentence you to life in prison. You should be worried about your final judger, God. For I believe on your day of reckoning, God will strike you and your evil down forever. While my brother shall live forever. For blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I know Robert and Lorena are watching over our families and their fellow correctional officers. They will forever be our guardian angels.
The next statement that we have, Judge, is Stephanie and George Schulte. It will be read by Stephanie. They are the parents of Lorena. Stephanie is Stephanie. George, George.
Your Honor, I'm going to speak to you. Lorena entered our lives on September 27th, 1982, at the age of 12. She was born
I'm
in
sorry,
El
ma'am.
Salvador.
Could you use the microphone so everyone can hear? Thank you.
Stephanie?
She was,
Make sure you read slowly too, okay? Thank you.
she was born in El Salvador, but due to the civil war that was raging in that country, her father decided it would be best for her to leave her homeland and become a part of the Schulte family. At that time, Lorena did not speak English and was suddenly immersed in a totally different society and lifestyle. She had a determined spirit which helped her to learn English and to adapt to her new life. She continued to thrive and experience the joys, heartaches, fears, failures, successes, and confidence that would mold her into the wonderful person that we mourn today. Lorena always had a calling to help family, friends, and acquaintances whenever she was able. This was very evident when she decided to begin classes at Kirkwood Community College towards a degree, first in criminal justice and then as a registered nurse. The classes were not easy for her, but she worked diligently so that she mastered the knowledge and skills of her profession. This was all done while she was holding full-time positions in nursing homes or warehouses, working the night shift. Once she obtained her degree, she continued to maintain and improve her knowledge through online and continuing education courses. Family and friends were always important to Lorena. Christmas, Easter, and birthday celebrations were the good people that Lorena invited because they had no one to celebrate with. We broke bread and shared laughter and friendship with many. Sometimes it was an elderly person from a nursing home that had no family left and an acquaintance from work that would otherwise be by themselves or friends that were experiencing difficulties within their own families. She knew that there would always be a place setting for whomever she brought. Lorena loved being a homeowner. She would plant a variety of flowers and bushes and take pride in upkeep of her landscape. She had a deck to the back of the house so she could build what needed a nice space. Every holiday she decorated the house. Christmas was her favorite, with several Christmas trees, Christmas villages complete with a train, and a manger scene on her front porch. She enjoyed cooking, was able to try new recipes on family members during our monthly lunch dates at her house. She was always looking forward to the next time that she was able to have 3 of her nieces over to spend the night, or go to Adventureland or Big Apples in Wisconsin. Whenever a family medical situation came up, from hospitalizations or operations to broken bones or sprained ankles, blood pressure readings or interpretation of various lab results, Lorena was always there to help, comfort, rebandage, and if need be, scold for not taking medicine or trying to do too much. We were constantly glad for the plans when it came to taking care of us in our old age. Let's just say the padded walls, spikers, and a high-pressure hose for the medication. As Lorena's parents, we will not be able to listen to her corny jokes or hear her happy laughter. We will not be able to check with her concerning medical issues. We will not be able to meet Lorena's friends brought to our house for holiday meals. We will not be able to share meals prepared by her or discuss which dish might be a better choice or which one's not even considered. We will not be able to discuss our future plans and next projects or how we can help each other improve our daughters. We will not be able to take any more trips with her, including a tour in the United States.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize for the interruption.
Anything we do as a family from this point forward will now have to be experienced without Lorena. This is a loss from which we will never recover. We will always have an emptiness in our hearts and an eternal void in our lives. Your Honor, this was our daughter, who was suddenly and violently taken from us due to the senseless evil that occurred on March 23rd, 2021. We ask the court in any future proceedings dealing with this defendant to remember Lorena Schulte, our man, not as a statistic and a case law number, but as a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and friend she truly was.
Please, anyone who has a cell phone with them, turn it off at this time so we don't have any other interruptions. Thank you.
Isabel Schulte. Her first name is Isadeel. She is the sister of Lorraine.
Your Honor, my sister and I were born in South. I'm the oldest and she's the youngest. I lived with her in her house. We did a lot of things together. I sometimes don't even want to go to the store. I used to go to the store. Every time you go to say, today is that you go to the store. I'm not a very holy person, but she's always keeping an eye on me. I had blood pressure. I had all kinds of problems. And she was my nurse. We were doing things together. We were putting furniture together. I missed the nights when I came home from work and said, go get church, keep this way. I heartache so much. Come on, baby, you know. And then we'll go watch videos, silly videos. The two of us, I miss them. It's only because somebody wanted to stay somebody's life. I just can't believe somebody do something like that. I miss my sister so much. She has survived so many things. She had asthma. Then she had appendicitis. When they were going to the hospital, the ambulance had an accident. I just cannot believe she's gone. I want her here with me. I don't understand why somebody is so bad. Just go and destroy people's life like that. I just if somebody was to give me a hammer, I wouldn't hit him. Not on the head, but I will break every single bone in his hands so he will not hurt anybody. I will not get to see my sister anymore. I go to the cemetery every single day. I'm taking medicine for that. This is not me. This is not me. It hurts so bad. I miss her so much. She was a good person to have in society. She likes learning a lot. She was taking some classes in the internet. But she didn't finish doing that. She didn't finish. That's the evil man you have there. He does not deserve to live. He doesn't deserve the death penalty. That's too bad we don't have it here. But he does. I had never felt like about anybody, but I do about him. I hate the man so much. I hate him. She took something that it was good. She was so good. She was a good person. She was a good nurse. She loved her. Yes, she did. She had us so hard. I can't believe he did that. And it hurts me for me because I wasn't there to hold her hand. I got to see her 2 days later.
That's not our way to see somebody in your family that dies like that. I hope somebody hurt him in prison. I really do. And then he'll feel that pain. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Next is Gretchen Dixon. Gretchen. Dixon is Dixon. She is his sister.
My name is Gretchen Dixon. Lorraine is my sister. No word will fully be able to express who she was and how her murder has impacted our lives and our children. There is now a bottomless void that surrounds all who knew her. I was supposed to grow old with her. On Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, around 11:30, I received a phone call that would change my life forever. There was an emergency at Animal Assistant Penitentiary. My heart raced. I couldn't catch my breath. I found out my sister Lorraine was brutally murdered. I was home with my 4 children, feeding my 17-day-old son and needing to start lunch for the girls. I had to try to hold back tears and pain. They asked what was wrong, and I couldn't tell them yet. I wanted my husband home. When I told them, I had to tell my parents, Lorena is dead. They looked at me shocked. I still can't believe I was saying those words. Lorena is dead. After I told them, we decided they would go tell Isabel, my sister. They called when they had her in the car. All I heard was crying. Isabel had a broken heart. I could hear it. What was she supposed to do now? Isabel had lived with Lorena for the last 10 plus years. We are the kind of family that gets together. We enjoyed trying to figure out new ways to see each other. Lorena was always on to the next home or garden improvement project, which included us helping and then getting us to do the things in our house, and she would help. Doing these projects without her now is so hard. Lorena loved trying new recipes on us. Her Tuesdays off, she would cook lunch, a main course, and a dessert. Most of the time, Mom and Dad would leave, and Lorena and I would just talk and drink wine. One of Lorena's sayings was, I enjoy a glass bottle of wine. I will never have another glass with her again. The last 2 times we were with Lorena was on the day off, March 15th through 27th, and Sunday, March 21st. March 15th, she came straight from work to pick up the girls. They had always spent Monday and Tuesday night and be home before bed on Wednesday. When she took the girls on the 3 days, it gave me a refresh. Tuesday, she cooked us lunch. Nick was always invited, and Lorena always had a drink for him. It was by luck that Nick attended this lunch, as he would normally be working. Sunday, March 21st, we were celebrating my dad's birthday. That was the last hug, the last laugh, the last photograph. Lorena was there for it all. When she moved out, I was 4, and she came and got me on the days off. I was the baby and was always spoiled by her. As I got older, I lived on the East Coast, north and south, and she visited me in both. She was a great sounding board. She was always able to help me see the best in difficult times, reminding me that you could get through anything. Lorena helped me be a calmer and more patient person, wife and mother. Family was so important to her, and continued that with my children. Lorena was an aunt. This was probably her favorite role. She was the first one that knew I was going to be a mom. She was so excited to be an aunt. I have 4 children, 3 girls, 11, 7, and 4, and a son, 5 months. Her days off were for the girls. She took the girls to the park, splash pads, hiking, picnics, movies, zoo, Adventureland, and on. She made every holiday fun by decorating, baking, and doing crafts and buying outfits. She shopped for them, and every time she looked around the room, it was filled with those special gifts. I had to tell my children one of their favorite persons in this world would never hear them, would never hold them again, or hear her voice again. No more joking, no more laughing, no more travel or exploring with her. They needed her. Now, they will live the rest of their lives wondering what could have been, and working hard to overcome the loss they should have never had to experience. She was supposed to be here to help me with my children and the teenagers. When they don't want their parents, they would go to her. My 11-year-old daughter can't catch her breath and asks me why. A question that we'll never be able to answer, because there is no reason Lorena should be dead. She has become closed off and somewhat guarded and struggling to verbalize any thought about Lorena without crying or tapping into the lost relationship with her aunt. She and Lorena were close. She could go and talk to Lorena about anything. Something every young preteen needs. She will struggle for years to face the intensity of this loss and change in her self-identity because of it. My 7-year-old daughter tries to be strong for her sisters and me through hugs and I love yous. She has a need to control her environment and exhibits anxiety to the point where she fantasizes about turning back time. Providing healing to dolls and toys has always failed. My 4-year-old daughter tries to hold on to the memories. Even though she shares openly about Lorena, the loss is so deep for her. She has become overly attached to me, and it's difficult to leave her for any length of time. My now 5-month-old son had only 3 chances to meet his aunt, as he was only born 17 days prior to Lorena's murder. He will never get to know her. The girls see my sadness and how the joy I experienced through Lorena has been wronged. Weeks of crying on and off all day. Nightmares, screaming in the night while they grieve her loss. This is our current reality. Every day I wonder, what is going to trigger one of us today? The other night we went out for dinner, parked facing a movie theater, and the tears started flowing because Lorena took them to that theater often. So much joy becomes so much hurt and pain. It has only been 5 months and I still can't even process all we are losing forever. And I don't know the long-term effects this will have in our lives. As we look through her pictures on her devices, we see them filled with the girls, house projects, and gardening. We have already missed 4 lunches. We've missed 2 birthdays, Mother's and Father's Day, and the beach, which we visited for the first time without her. Lorena had plans for her retirement. She was excited to start a new chapter in her life. She talked about getting a dog because she would be home more often. She wanted to travel. Lorena was doing her job. Everyone I have talked to has told me how well she did her job, with integrity. As a nurse, she took an oath. I solemnly pledge myself in the presence of this assembly to faithfully practice my profession of nursing. I will do all in my power to make and maintain the highest standard and practice of my profession. I will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping in the practice of my calling. I will loyally assist the physicians in their work, and I will devote myself to the welfare of my patients, my families, and my community. I will endeavor to fulfill my right and privileges as a good citizen and to take my share of responsibility in promoting the health and welfare of my community. I will constantly endeavor to increase my knowledge and skills in nursing and to use them wisely. I will zealously seek to nurse those who are ill wherever they may be and whenever they are in need. I will be active in assisting others in safeguarding and promoting the health and happiness of mankind. Thank you.
Judge, next is the victim impact statement of Lori Mathis. Will be read by Mary Roach from the Department of Corrections on Lori's behalf. Lori is present in the courtroom. I would point that out to the court. She's sitting there.
Ms. Rhodes, could you spell your name for me, please?
R-O-C-H-E.
Thank you. And Lori is?
L-O-R-I-E. M-A-T-T-H-E-S. On behalf of Lori, I want to thank the court for allowing me this opportunity to have my victim impact statement read, to voice what I survived on March 23rd, 2021. Your Honor, I have given a total of 29 years of service to the Iowa Department of Corrections in a patient care setting. Never have I ever had to witness or go through such a horrific tragedy as what I was put through on that day. It is forever embedded in my head, and the evilness that took place on that dreadful day will not be forgotten. Your Honor, I would like to address my next few comments to the defendant. You have stolen from me a part of my life that is now forever changed. The complete lack of regard for others' lives was so apparent to me that day in that break room. I do not feel you have 1 ounce of remorse for all the lives you have forever changed by your inhumane acts of violence. I'm not going to share with you all of the impact your actions have had on me, because that is personal to me and my family. Out of respect for Lorena and Robert's families, I do not want to disclose details of this event that ended their lives so senselessly. Your Honor, I do want this court to know that all aspects of my life have been altered in many ways, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I suffered broken ribs, a tear in my left meniscus, bruising all down my leg with a hematoma, and the broken ribs resulted in pneumonia in both lungs. My body may have healed from the injuries I sustained that day, but my mind is forever altered. I struggle on a daily basis with the mental wounds that are still open and fresh. The healing process is not something that is accomplished in a short amount of time. My only wish is for prayers and healing for all of us affected by this tragedy. Thank you, Lord Memphis.
Judge, the last victim impact statement is McKinley Roby. It'll be read by Ed Cumming, who works with the Department of Corrections. McKinley Roby is MC, capital K-I-M-L-E-Y. Roby is R-O-B-Y. Mr. Cummings' last name, I believe, is C-U-M-M-I-N-G. Is that correct?
S.
S. Cummings.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Your Honor and other members of the court, my name is McKinley Roby, one of the surviving victims of the incident at Anamosa State Penitentiary on March 23rd, 2021. I was going to go into some of the details of that day, Tuesday, March 23rd, but I'm going to say this. Mr. Woodard, you can make any type of statement about me all you want. It's not going to change the fact that you and your co-defendant killed McFarland and you killed the nurse, Lorena. And both of you, you and your co-defendant, attacked and attempted to kill me. Your co-defendant kidnapped the dental assistant, placing her against the break room wall against her will. Whether you show concern or not, but from me to you, it's eating you up on the inside to have a number-making dummy move to get the alphabet. Whether you want to hear it or not, that day has changed me, left an emotional impact on my life. My trust in others, my anger and fear level has changed, all because of what happened to me on March 23rd, 2021. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go on in life once I work my issues out. I can't do much at this time because I can't be around a lot of people without being careful. I can't be in tight, close surroundings without the fear of being attacked. I'm not afraid to say anything about me and about how my ability to do the things I used to do has been affected by what happened to me at Anamosa Penitentiary. You and your co-defendant have affected my life for the moment. You have affected the lives of Lorena's family, and you have affected the lives of McFarland's family. That was a bad day, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, being beaten with hammers. The lives you and your co-defendant took, the beating of me and the kidnapping of Lori, that day will be with you and your co-defendant until the day you two die. It's going to break you and hunt you down. Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the court. To the families of McFarland and Lorena, know that you are my thoughts and prayers. McKinley Roby.
Your Honor, that concludes the victim impact statements.
judgment based upon the guilty pleas that were previously entered by Mr. Woodard on August 6, 2021. With regard to count 1, judgment shall now enter on the Class A felony, murder in the first degree for the murder of Robert McFarland. Judgment will enter upon that guilty plea pursuant to Iowa Code Sections 707.1 and 707.2, subsection 1, subsection D. The court enters a judgment of guilt. With regard to count 2, judgment shall enter upon the guilty plea for the Class A felony murder in the first degree. Judgment will enter of guilt pursuant to Iowa Code Sections 707.1, 707.2, subsection 1, subsection D, for the murder of Lorena Schulte. With regard to count 3, a Class B felony, judgment will now enter upon Mr. Woodard's prior plea of guilty to the offense of kidnapping in the second degree. Judgment of guilt will enter pursuant to Iowa Code Section 710.1, 710.3, subsection 1. With regard to count 4, judgment will also enter, judgment of guilt will enter upon the defendant's prior plea of guilty to attempted murder in violation of Iowa Code Sections 707.11, subsection 1, and 707.11, subsection 2. For the kidnapping in the second degree was for the kidnapping of Lori Mathis and attempted murder of McKinley Roby. Upon the judgments entered, the court will now sentence Thomas Allen Woodard. With regard to counts 1 and 2, Mr. Woodard will be remanded to the custody of the director of Iowa Department of Corrections for the rest of his life. The director of the department will make arrangements to transfer Mr. Woodard's custody to the state of Nebraska. With regard to count 3 and count 4, the court remands Mr. Woodard to the director of the Iowa Department of Adult Corrections to serve an indeterminate prison term not to exceed 25 years. The sentences in counts 1, 2, 3, and 4 shall run consecutively and not concurrently. The court has considered the sentence with regard to each count has been prescribed by the legislature. The court has no discretion. The court has, with regard to the sentences that are imposed, the court does have discretion to determine whether it is appropriate to run the sentences concurrently or consecutively. As was pointed out by counsel, whatever the court orders today, Mr. Woodard will spend the rest of his life in the custody of the Department of Corrections. The court has considered the nature of the offense, the manner in which these offenses were committed, the number of people who were affected by these acts on March 23rd, 2021. And although there is nothing that this court can do to alleviate any of the hurt and the loss that took place as a result of your acts, the court finds that running these sentences consecutively may give some solace to the families, knowing that the court takes this very seriously, and the court will therefore enter the order that these sentences will run consecutively rather than concurrently. With regard to count 1, in addition to the prison term, Mr. Woodard is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $150,000 to the estate of Robert McFarland. Should it be the case that Mr. McFarland died intestate without a will, the restitution shall be paid to his heirs at law. With regard to count 2, Mr. Woodard is further ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $150,000 to the estate of Lorena Schulte. And again, in the event Ms. Schulte died intestate, those payments shall be made to her heirs at law. With regard to count 3, Mr. Woodard is ordered to pay restitution to Lori Mathis in the amount set forth in the pecuniary damage statement, specifically in the amount of $306.30. With regard to count 4, Mr. Woodard is further ordered to pay restitution in an amount later determined by the court, and today's order will permit 30 days for the state to file any additional pecuniary damage statement regarding any pecuniary damage on behalf of McKinley Road. Mr. Woodard, you do have the right to appeal. You must file a notice of appeal within the next 30 days. That appeal must be filed with the clerk of the court here in the Jones County Courthouse. If you have any questions about your right to appeal, your attorneys can certainly answer those questions for you. Given the nature of these charges, you have been held without bond since the time that I accepted your guilty pleas, and you are not entitled to an appeal bond with regard to these 4 counts. Anything further on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further on behalf of Mr. Woodard?
No, Your Honor.
At this time, we will be adjourned. Parties are excused.
Well, I had
Yeah.
at the same time.
Right.
So I had to pass it off.
Yeah.
So it's going to go in September. I was going to do it exactly. Bonus at the end of the supervisor, right? Exactly.